Is content truly king, or is repurposing your content king? Right here, right now, on Air Brands Live.
It's On Air Brands Live at Home with Stefan Bravaco, Eric Cabral, Josh Carey, Jordan Fraser, and Justin Fraser. Lisa Holbert, Sarah McMillan, Chris Orsi, Jack Turkel, and Jake Resnicki.
Hey, folks. Welcome back to the On Air Brands Live show. Always a pleasure being here with you, friendly, fine folks. And we're so excited to bring some ridiculously amazing and valuable content to you because today we have an absolute expert in the content game. And as I teed up for you folks to chew on and think about and ponder, is content truly king
or queen?
Yes. What?
I don't know, king or queen. It's 2020. We could say it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
If you're in Europe or
Carry on.
in England. But yeah,
Fair.
it's really a question because that is a saying that's been, going on for decades. And we truly, I think we've evolved beyond that because you can create content, but repurposing is absolutely critical and necessary in life and business today.
And what does it all really mean? Creating content. We're going to explore that. And repurposing. What are these newfangled words in which you speak? But seriously, we're going to talk about that because as business owners, you are probably, and personal brands and lovely people, you are probably creating content and probably also repurposing it without even knowing it. So we're going to really get into that.
We're going to do a deep dive. And people who are watching right now are like, what is this wizardry? What are you talking about? We're going to break it all down for you because we have an expert here. Shayna, how are you?
It is Shayna. Shayna.
I corrected myself.
Of course, very quickly, by the way.
You.
We'll edit it out in post. We'll take care of it. And it is Shayna Weisinger, the founder of Repurpose House. So I like that right there. She lets you know exactly who she is and what she does. What's going on, Shayna?
Welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me, guys. This has been quite the experience already, so I'm super pumped to see what's to come.
Is it? And I see our man Pablo Gonzalez on the live right now. He says, let's go.
Let's do it, Pablo.
With multiple O's. So we're going to go, Pablo. I hope this is us going.
My man Pablo, really quick shout out. Love you to death, brother. He came into our PodMax event last week, stepped up to the plate and knocked it out of the park because we asked him to not only be a part of PodMax, but to also be a contributor in terms of jump in on one of our shows, be the host to our show, and he just crushed it. He absolutely nailed and represented the brand to the fullest. So you are definitely a brand ambassador for us, brother. So now we have two. We got Larry Roberts and now Pablo Gonzalez. I'm sorry, I didn't make that official with you. Is that cool with Pablo's ambassador?
We'll talk off the air.
Okay. But yeah, Pablo's going to share because he's in the content game. He's in the repurposing game as well. And yeah, we're loving this. Shayna, so tell the folks a little bit about what you do right now. And then, of course, throughout the course of the show, we can get into your background and stuff. But let the folks know what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. So I created a company that all we do is create social media savvy assets with your existing content. So that can be anything from text, audio, video, you name it, any type of content. We just make sure that you have a ton of assets out of each of it that are optimized properly for all of the social media channels. And that's the big key is that it's a pain in the butt to make sure that every element on every single piece of content you put on social media is ready to rock and roll the right way for each platform. And we take the pain out of doing that.
Here's what I love about what you do. I know that your clients, the people that you work with, i.e., the brands of content that you've repurposed into savvy social media, they are some of the biggest and top and well-known brands in the industry. I mean, Digital Marketer and War Room
Roland
and
Fraser,
and
Jordan Harbinger.
Jordan Harbinger.
Go on with your bad self.
Yeah. So that's all wonderful, obviously. But my question I'd love to have you answer, and to tie it into the listener, how does one obtain such credible clients? How do we get on their radar? How do we work with them? How do we get them to say yes? How does that happen?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that people just have a really hard time doing is asking. It's simple. Like when we nailed a couple of our biggest clients, it was just a matter of really personalized outreach and just letting them know how we could help them specifically. I think people get caught up in the big name and they're afraid to even try. And that's how we've gotten some major clients. It's also how I've gotten a chance to interview some really amazing people on my show. You just ask and you'd be amazed at how many people are more receptive than you would originally think.
I love and appreciate that answer, and I totally agree with it because even from the podcast host perspective, you'd be surprised if you just ask what kind of a guest will say yes. But also, let's take that a step further. What literally then has to be in place from your end in order for them to do an ounce of due diligence and then say, okay, this is an easy yes? What are they looking for? What do you have to come to the table with?
Yeah, ultimately credibility first. No company starts with rockstar clients on their roster that you can promote and tout, right? So we had to come to the table with like, listen, we understand what the problem is and what your need is to make your business grow faster. It's all about sales in general and marketing is all about how can you help the person that you're trying to sell, right? So we have to lead with we know we can make your life easier in this way. We understand your pain point is this. Here's how we can make you more efficient, more money, get you more eyes on your content, bring more people to your site. And really it's just about understanding what they're struggling with and how you're going to be a solution.
It is so genius. Everything you said in the last 30 seconds comes down to one of the things you said is that we understand your problem. I think that as entrepreneurs, no matter where you are in business, no matter what industry or niche you're serving, knowing, like you said, Shayna, the pain point, the problem you are solving, and the result that you can achieve is just everything. You must know that. And in all seriousness, we had to, as we begun doing the virtual version of PodMax, which is now really our main version because we don't see going back to this in a physical space anytime soon. But even if we do, it's not going to resemble this. It'll be a bigger event thing. So as we were going forward with the virtual PodMax experience, we had to take a look, step back and say, not only who are we serving, but what problem are we solving? So important of an exercise.
Yeah, right. It's super important in any marketing. And if you haven't done that yet, then that's the first thing you should do when this video is over, for sure.
Yeah, I want to add to that because I think it's a personality trait that can be learned. So anyone out there who's a business owner or solopreneur, you have to get into the mindset of adding value in people's lives so that when you get into a conversation and an opportunity is looking at the zeros and ones when they are speaking so that you can start to dissect what are they telling me. How can I analyze what it is they're telling me? What are the pain points what are the red flags that I'm beginning to notice in this conversation? And then after they think you're having a normal conversation, but they don't realize the computer is analyzing the data, and then you're coming back with solutions, or you're even straight out asking, hey, what are your pain points? How can I help you? How can I serve? And I do this all the time. It's just part of me. And you'll often get a reaction like this, like, Really? Thank you for asking me. Like, I had this literally yesterday. This lovely lady was like, I can't believe you just asked that. Thank you. And she just went down a list of stuff. And I was like, okay, I can help you with this. I can help you with this. I know someone that can help you here, and I'll make those introductions. So it's all about starting, and Josh loves talking about this, is personal development and starting here first at center, and then truly coming to the table with, hey, I really give a crap about you and what you're saying in your life, and I want to help you in any way I can. If it's not personally, someone I know can hopefully help you.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That's one thing that, like, in all of the conversations I have, like, I don't do sales calls anymore, but like in the conversations that I have with so many people in the content and marketing industry, like the first thing that I do is, like, if they're talking about an issue or something that they're dealing with, just like you're saying, like, I'm going to offer so many suggestions that they can help themselves with immediately that have nothing to do with my business or them paying money, because I am already going to know tools or tricks or hacks that can probably be applied to their video production, their repurposing and stuff that they can do themselves. And that builds trust it builds trust between the two of you. And then they're going to be more apt to be like, oh man, they really know what they're talking about. They really care. What can I do that's more with them?
Yeah. We got some questions here from the audience. I don't want to lose
Please
the
do.
audience here. So Jeff Scalia asked the question. Can you throw that up, Jake? Yeah. How do you work with promoting eBay stores? Do you have any clients like that or any experience helping people?
You know, we have e-commerce clients. I don't know that they're specifically just an eBay store. I know that they have, they sell products on their websites. They sell products on like with Shopify, Amazon, and a lot of it is, some of it's in healthcare. A lot of it is education on the products, why this product is better than those products. A lot of like long-ish form types of content that have to do with the audience's interests and what they would be purchasing. Like, it's going to be tough if you have an eBay store that sells like all sorts of random stuff. What's going to be easier is if you have an expressed interest in like health, wellness, work, literally anything that you have an expressed interest in. It's going to be easier to create content based on what you know that audience is questioning, needs to hear, thinking about, and especially if that can relate to your products.
Nice.
I know that your business is all about taking existing content from the brand, from the content creators, and repurposing that, extracting the clips into social media files. Is there something specific that helps your job / makes the end result that much better? Are there certain pieces of content that just naturally work better? Is there something that we could bring to the table to anticipate an end result?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give a little bit of background, the reason I started the company was because I have a company that does all video production for content strategy. So I started at that front level going, okay, how can we make this, if I'm going to make content for clients, I want to make sure that it's super strategic and that we can utilize it everywhere. And through doing that, I realized that the repurposing piece was a massive pain point, right? So I've been through the whole process and I know how difficult and frustrating it can be to make that much content. So one thing that like I especially people who haven't really generated a ton of content, the best thing that you can do is think about the questions that you answer constantly. If you speak a lot or if you get interviewed a lot, what's the handful of things you say on repeat every single time? And make a list of those things. And those are the first pieces of long form content to create. And then from there, there's all of these different like hacks. If you know that you're going to take this one piece of content and you're going to repurpose it all over the place and chop it up into a bunch of pieces, if you can be very intentional about what that first piece looks like for instance, numbers do really, really well in marketing. It's psychology, right? The brain wants to close loops. So if you say the top 7 things to never ever do when you are feeding your dog, and you only give them one of those things, and you say the rest of it's on the landing page, the brain wants to close the loop, right? So the chances of getting them to the landing page is a lot higher now that you've only given them a tidbit and they know there's more. So if you were to make this 7-tip video on the 7 things to never ever do when feeding your dog, now you know you have 7 pieces of repurposed content that you can put all over social media that will drive traffic to that existing piece of content. So imagine being able to do that with all of the questions that you get asked consistently, and even like just have a running list on your phone, like of topics that pop up in your head while you're driving, right? And you will be amazed at how much leverage and mileage you'll get out of everything you create if you're intentional from the base level.
How amazing is that, closing the loop,
Yeah.
using that? So it's almost like, oh my goodness, an entrepreneur, we don't need to be a master at everything, but we need to know that that's a thing, for example. You need to know what that means. You need to know the psychology of a headline and how to deliver it. And if you can't satisfy that, work with somebody and bring somebody on your team that can.
Yeah, yeah. And what's cool about having people on your team that understand marketing marketing is very psychological. It's all about how humans interact and how they digest information. But I also like the metaphor when it comes to creating content, Shayna, the mosaic or the puzzle where you provide pieces, right? And you start to paint a picture for people, but then they know there are pieces missing. But the thing is, they don't necessarily know. And you're telling them, hey, here are the pieces, and I'm giving it to you little by little. And then as a whole, over time, you'll see the big picture. And I love being able to sort of operate at that level, because then you're able to really create content from a holistic 10,000-foot view and see the big picture so that people can basically come to you, right? And it's strategic. They understand, people call them funnels, people call them whatever they want to call them. But the thing is, it's basically bringing your tribe to you, and you're doing it with intention, and you're doing it with a strategic plan. Very much like generals in a war room where it's like, and speaking of war room, I see you work with Roland Fraser, who's a friend of ours. And, we're also I'm a part of the war room community. But yeah, it's amazing to be able to see how it operates, because it's I hate using the word, but it's really magical because it's powerful. It's like, whoa, I'm the wizard here and I have the wand and I control things. But yeah, anyway.
Well, and it's like anything else. Like you want to go into it with a plan of attack, because otherwise you're just spinning your wheels for no reason. I mean, imagine the amount of time you can save knowing that you really only have to create 4 pieces of long form content a month. And that's going to fill your social media feeds, your funnels, all that stuff, instead of having to chase content all week long to post on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's just, if you can be intentional about it, you're going to save yourself so much time and energy in the long run, for sure.
I made a comment at the top of the show about I don't know if I gave it thought or how accurate it is, but I said that as entrepreneurs, you're probably not only creating content deliberately or not deliberately, and you might even be repurposing it deliberately or not deliberately. Is there truth to that it's something we're probably doing in some form, but really not as intentional / well as we can?
Oh, for sure. I mean, 99% of people who are trying to utilize social media or even just video content in general for their marketing are posting it in more than one place. And ultimately that's repurposing, if you will. Like if you have the podcast and you're sending the link to, Facebook, Instagram, if you're going to put it on multiple platforms, you're repurposing. Posting a link from YouTube to Facebook is technically repurposing. It's not best practice and I don't recommend it, but there are ways that you can do it that are much more effective. But ultimately, I feel like people just want to be able to use a piece of content more than once. They maybe just don't know the most strategic way to do it. So to your point, it gets shared in ways that aren't really optimized for where they're sharing it.
So if we're doing something like this, let's get meta, for example, which we've been known to like to do in real time. We're here. This is being broadcast to at least Facebook Live. It'll be repurposed and extracted as a typical audio only podcast.
It's on YouTube.
Right.
YouTube Live.
So this video content that we're creating, this is a fine base of content to create that we would then be able to hand off, and you say, oh, here are some great clips and here's some value that we use from it.
Oh, absolutely. So what we'll do is say, it would be like, every week you've got an episode going live, right? And you'd have somebody on the team, potentially, we have curators also that you can add, and they would know every week they have to go through that piece of content and find 1, 2, 5, 10. I mean, this one will be filled with gold nuggets, obviously, but as many up to 2-minute clips that they can find that are super awesome, that can drive back to the original form of content. And in a 30-minute show, guaranteed, if you're rolling with awesome content, you can get at least 4 to 5 repurposed assets out of it minimum.
Yeah. And I love on your site how it's educational, where
Jake's taking notes
you
because he's that curator.
You show people right up front how the difference it makes creating content this way versus that way, right? You have the little swipe. For those of you who I haven't seen this utilized much lately, but you do a really good job with it, is, you have the slider, and it's the content that you normally would see out there, where it's a full screen, it's one person on screen and he's doing live or whatever, but he's got no graphics around him. Fine, right? That's quick and easy to just knock that out. But you're showing with the slider, hey, you want to take that video to the next level, and then you have the Gary V, headline with the lower third of who they are, the founder of blah blah, with a call to action. So this it's your content on steroids. And we have an audience that a lot of people are either creating content or they're trying to get into the content game. And I want to talk to the people that are like intimidated by the idea of taking this to the next level. So we're talking next level stuff, but also we want you and to continue encouraging you to create content as quickly as possible. If like Pablo's doing a how many day challenge? I forget. He's like 90-day or 100-day, 200-day challenge where he's going to do videos each and every day
online.
So Shayna, I imagine that's hard if you're going to be putting that on the back end and production and graphics and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you are someone that has little time or can't commit to something long term like that, or not ready for it, if you create something like this, a piece of content that's an hour, or so long, like you said, there's so many ways that you can repurpose that. And we haven't even touched upon the fact that you can transcribe these things and you can start to create articles and blogs and start to share things in a different format for people to digest. So, for example, my podcast is roughly 45 minutes to an hour. Well, I transcribe those into articles, and it's funny, when I read the articles, they're a 5 to 7 minute read, maybe shorter, and I'm like, oh my God, I just absorbed, I was in the interview, and I got more value reading the article, because now all the nuggets are pulled out, I scan through it, and I'm like, everyone should be doing this.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned, it's so funny, talking about Shayna's slider example on the website that shows an original raw video, and then how she pretties it up and makes it look great for social. You labeled it, and it's not the first time we've used this. You said, and then you use the Gary V headline. I mean, certainly, I don't know if he's the one that started the trend, and he's certainly not the only one to use it, but we, for reasons, identify him as like that style. So that means that he's doing something right, including, I'm sure he gives away, he has a 50-page deck that says how to get 100 pieces of content from one piece, and he goes through how he does it. It's quite extraordinary.
Yeah. And to your point, it's funny, if you think of having a business that literally has to adjust every time Gary V changes something and what works. When he started to do like the progress bars and all stuff, I was like, oh, we got to change what we do now.
Yeah. I know.
Oh, the progress. Oh, yeah, exactly.
At the beginning, they weren't really a thing. So like now there's every time Gary does something different, we're like, oh, well, we have to have an internal meeting.
Gotta do it.
And then it's like, there's Gary in first class on a plane at night with a hoodie. Now I got to do it. Great.
I got the hoodie, so we're getting there.
Gotta get my private jet.
You know that famous clip from like 6 years ago? Who doesn't?
But yeah, I love that, because we are in the content creation game, which is always evolving and always getting better and leveling up. And of course, we follow the lead. What's cool about this is, I'm seeing in the comments and the people are engaged, our community, you're our, female Gary V, or, Lady V, we'll call you for now.
Ooh, ouch. Wow.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's not an ouch. That's
I know.
That's it hurts so good. That's
what I mean. It's like I'm crying of tears of joy.
You want to be Lady V?
Lady V. Could I? Could we both be? I don't know.
Yeah. So, let's think of some of the questions. If folks of you who are watching and enjoying this, while we have Shayna here, please throw more questions, more comments, any thoughts that you have, especially if you're a content creator and you're developing stuff and, you've used tools, tips, and strategies to level up. What are you doing to up your game? As I mentioned, I repurposed my my podcast to be now articles on LinkedIn and websites and all these other forms. But then there's also, check this out, I'm talking to a company that is going to take presentations that I do. So I do, live, when we're on stage, presentations as well as virtual presentations. They will take that educational content that's about roughly an hour to maybe 90 minutes, and they will turn that into a book. How crazy is that? So they'll be able to extract all the information, go back and forth with me and iterate, and then create a fantastic 90 to 100 page book, which they will not only take the content, create the content, but then also format it, design the covers, and then publish it to Amazon.
Absolutely.
I mean, holy smokes.
There's so much brilliance in that. It's just like, yeah, that's possible. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Some people listening to that, it's like, wait a minute, that's a thing? Yeah. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to piggyback on, like, I know that you were saying that you create a blog post out of your podcast episodes and things like that. We actually have like friends in the industry have services that do that for people. We use a company called Content Cucumber. Chris is a buddy of mine, and we send them our videos, and they will transcribe it into LinkedIn articles, blog posts, emails. I mean, you could actually just give them topics, and they will pre-write everything for you. We'll go through and like make sure it's in our voice and tone and all that fun stuff. But ultimately, it's such a time saver because we can just send it off, and we know it comes back in all these different forms of text. Now the SEO is, we're using that piece of content for SEO for the site too. So that's another fun tool.
Yeah, we're the same as you. We play in all spaces, but we know what our strengths are, and we find partners to say, hey, we know this is necessary and a spoke on the wheel of marketing, but why don't you go over to Shayna? Why don't you go over to Pablo? Why don't you go over to any of our friends, and they'll take care of you. It's fine. It's kind of like, the auto industry, right? Where hey, you come and you buy a car, but then they start to outsource you to like, oh, you need wheels, you need tire, you need this, you need all these extra things. Oh, you need detailing. Good. And you don't even realize you're experiencing and going to another like party. You're actually still experiencing that under Lexus or whatever because it's all brought in-house, seemingly. But yeah, it's because, good people attract good people. And when you sign up with a company such as yours, or you sign up with anything, you trust them. So then automatically you trust whoever the heck they're partnering with, right? Because like, okay, you know what? You're doing the legwork for me. Yes, of course. I'll just work with your person. They're good. But anyway, I'm talking about business. Let's get back to content. So
I think it's all the same.
Yes, but I want to talk to the people who are thinking about content and they want to level up. They're like, okay, I've done my 60-day challenge. What now? Could they go back and review and analyze the data and say, okay, what resonated with people the most, and then start to do more of that? Or do you suggest they go back and take those and repurpose those videos already recorded?
You can do both. I mean, take what's really working and repurpose those properly for all the different channels. Because think about it, like, okay, did your challenge just include uploading to Facebook, or was it a Facebook Live? Did it go on IGTV? Did it go on Instagram stories? Did it go on Facebook stories? Did it go on LinkedIn? Did it go everywhere? Yeah. And if it did, was it formatted properly for all of those channels? Because we all know IGTV needs to look different than Facebook does and that LinkedIn does. So like, you can still take those pieces of content, like start with the ones who crushed it, and then start repurposing those properly. And when I say like formatted properly, we're talking like the vertical shape for IGTV. IGTV is kind of tricky because it crops down so many times. Like it starts this big and then it crops down to like a little bit taller than a square in the feed. And then it crops down to a square in your actual profile. So like making sure that you take that into consideration, making sure you have captions. Captions are such a big deal. 85% of people on Facebook watch videos on mute. So if you are a talking head and you don't have captions, nobody's gonna watch. 15% of people might watch, but that's a really diminished amount of people. And if you think LinkedIn's better, 80% of people on LinkedIn are watching with the volume off. So captions are such a huge deal if you're going to put content out there, because if you don't have it, you are automatically eliminating like 80% at least of the people who would potentially view it.
Here's my question about captions, and I'm guessing that most tools, whether it's working with you or doing a self tool that the content creator uses, captions I know are typically built into the scenario there. But can we quote get away with auto-generated and not clean up some punctuation or some words, or must it be top of the line caption?
I mean, I think maybe something's better than nothing, but would you let your blog get away with that? Like, are you going to be okay with that kind of stuff as a representation of your brand? Like, if you're okay with cutting some corners, and that's totally your call. There's some AI, like Google's AI for captions is better than Facebook's is, because Facebook does auto-generated captions now too, but I would suggest using Google. What's nice though is you can go into the caption file and make some edits too. Yeah. So you can always look at it, make sure it's fine. There's just some due diligence when it comes to doing it on your own. And it's just really, it's up to you if you're okay with the mistakes.
You can hire a team, I would say, that can at the very least, clean it up for you. But the thing is that team member needs to know. So if that team member is a VA, well, they need to understand the brand. Like, for example, Podmax, and this is always a pet peeve of mine because I'm a branding guy, is spelled capital P, little o, little d, capital M, capital A, capital X. When they're on shows, you don't see that properly in the captions because it's auto-generated. There's two separate words. It's all lowercase. And then, but the thing is, if you have someone on your team that understands the brand guidelines and can make sure everything's consistent, then they'll clean it up, which is highly recommended, right? So at least you're consistent, even on other people's stuff, but it's hard. It's hard to control other people's channels.
It is hard. And ultimately, like, if you really just don't want to do it yourself and you're just taking smaller clips for social, Rev is $1.25 a minute. So like, if you have a 2-minute clip that you want to put up and you want a human being to transcribe it, you go to rev.com, it's $1.25. And there's a little section when you go to submit your caption request where you can say, like, is there spelling that we need to be aware of? And you would say Podmax, capital P, O-D, capital M-A-X, and they would know, okay, that when that pops up, they can go in and make that change for you.
And it's acceptable, yes, for the content creator. Like if they're doing 7 tips and here's the first one, it's acceptable under normal circumstances to do the handheld phone.
So this is what's so interesting, and this breaks my video production heart. The selfie style video crushes full-fledged production. It makes me sad.
Say it again. What's the deal?
It makes me so sad. So like selfie style video just outperforms highly produced constantly across the board. There's literally, for anybody who is watching this like, oh, I don't know if I should make content, you have zero excuse because you have a phone in your pocket that has better video quality than the first video camera that I bought for my business. Yeah. So there's no reason you can't be filming. Get in front of a window, which is what I'm doing right now. Put your phone on a little like $5 tripod from Amazon, get a little microphone and get to shooting. You don't even need the microphone, just as long as you're trying. Like you have the technology.
And when you say get in front of a window, I want to make it clear, the light has to come from the front.
Right.
Backlight, light from the back is atrocious. You're going to be in darkness. So always the light source is from the front and or the side. When you say selfie handheld videos outperform, what are we talking about? Calls to action, views, what?
I'm pretty sure across the board, it's all of it. So I actually interviewed Dennis Yu, who he basically wrote parts of the whole teaching colleges how to do Facebook marketing, right? He is the Facebook guru, and he did a paid test with a client of his who was like a national furniture store. And they had this highly produced video that was, they spent a lot of money on, I'm certain. And he was going to test that against a selfie style video of the founder, who was just like an older gentleman, I guess, and the guy's like, nobody wants to see my face. And he's like, trust me, people want to see something personal. And so they tested that massive piece of content versus the selfie style video, and the selfie style just completely crushed it out of the park in comparison. Yeah. And that's paid ad scenario. And so it's kind of like the proof's in the pudding there. I think that it's just a matter of people want to feel like it's original content or it's personal, that they have like an insider view into like real life, as opposed to something that's super polished. And it doesn't feel like they're actually saying what's real. It feels like it's something that's been generated,
I love that. Especially now while everyone's home. There's more opportunities to record content in your space, in your environment, which is true. It's showing your lifestyle. It's showing, your environment in your home. You're not in the office necessarily, or your people get a behind the scenes look at your home office. It's great. I do want to recommend too that people, what I've noticed, because I create a lot of live content and put stuff out there, I change my background from time to time. So I'll make sure I'm in a different room, in a different place, or, I try not to walk too much. I know a lot of people do the walking thing, but the thing is the walking or the driving thing is distracting because then there's stuff happening in the background. People are like engaged in what you're saying. And then all of a sudden, somebody walks in the background or a dog. But anyway, finding a place where there's less distractions and it's quiet, the lighting's great. And like you said, I have high-end equipment. Well, look, we have high-end equipment. And even at home, I have, wireless lavaliers. I don't even use them because the microphone and video on this thing is so amazing. I cup my hand, just for a little inside tip for those. The microphone is on the bottom if you have an iPhone. If you cup your hand, you're going to block the noise from the back and the outside, and it's going to sound really high quality because now it's only picking your sound up. So anybody who watches my stuff, that's all I do. I literally pick up my phone, record. And sometimes, Shayna, I have so much in my head that needs to come out, and I don't necessarily know which platform I'm going to throw it on yet. I'll just start recording it and banking it and just stack all this content with in an album on my phone that says LinkedIn or Facebook. And then when it's time to publish, I'll just go into that bank and I'll go, oh, okay, here's something. I should just post this. So that this way you're not hesitating and you're not feeling pressured. Oh, I got to go live. It's Tuesday. I didn't go live this week.
Right.
So yeah, this is just little of, my experience. I'm not sure if Gary told me to do that or not.
Well, I think that front-loading content in general, that's something that I have been promoting to clients since I was doing video production. And that's that, you don't want to put this responsibility on yourself to be on every single day and create content every single day. I don't put makeup on every day. This is special, and what I'm going to do now is record a bunch of videos after this because this has been happening tomorrow. So it's just front load, have that bank. That's genius that you already have it kind of, it's going to be LinkedIn or Facebook, and then you know where it's going to land. But knowing or putting this pressure on yourself to constantly create content, I just feel is a recipe for failure for the vast majority. Some people can do it and it's no problem. I'm not one of those people. I would rather say on Mondays, I makeup plus hat if the hair's doing okay. And then we just film and you change your shirt and you do a couple of things to kind of get rid of the visual fatigue, the background you said that you changed, but just be savvy and bank it. Like you were saying, that's smart.
Your hair looks amazing, by the way. Do you just switch the hat and then you put another hat? It's got a different hairdo.
I've got the black Repurpose hat that's soft. I got a different hoodie with a different logo.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You're pulling it off. So our man Pablo here has a question. Jake, you want to throw that up? Any tips on writing copy for posts? That's a good one.
Yeah, and I know you did earlier, Shayna, talk about the 7 tips example. You just fire up the video and you give one of the tips. But we're going to go specific here. He's asking about writing copy for posts. So now, is it the same concept when you're writing?
You and I were having this conversation recently. Remember? And we're going to piggyback off you, Pablo. Remember the conversation where we were having do we tease what we're saying in the video in the writing, or do we take everything that we said and give it away in a 3-paragraph post?
Yeah, this was the separate conversation.
Right.
So I'll make a 2 or 3 minute video for Facebook that I'm like, oh, this is so great. I can't wait to tell everybody on Facebook this thing, or I got an idea, I got a concept. So whatever it is. So I'll come up with this really great 2 to 3 minute video, get it on Facebook, and then in the text area, in the post. And that's what I was asking him. I'm like, okay, do I reveal exactly what I say in the video? Do I just tease the video? Do I give a sentence? Hey, watch the video.
Or do I say things in the text that I didn't say in the video?
There's so many questions. What is the truth? How do you get people to
help us, Lady
Do
V.
I give it all away or give none of it
V.
away or some of it away?
Well, I feel like there's a lot to be said about testing your audience and writing it and seeing what works better for you. But there are
no, I have no time for that nonsense.
Who wants to know what the audience wants? Forget it. They don't matter.
No, just give me the answer.
I
Come
know,
on.
right? Wouldn't
That's
that
what
be
people
awesome?
want. That's
What I
people want.
can say though is that like there's the little section of copy that you're going to see before you have to expand the rest of the copy, right? And that you want to have some sort of teaser into it. Like a lot of people will do like the all bold with the emojis on either side, right? Like this one thing changed my life with emoji, right?
Clickbait.
And then
Clickbait.
but it's like that for a reason though, right? And so
Yeah,
then they go and they
works.
look at the other content. And so then, further down, like it's funny because some people lean into like 3 paragraphs long. We actually just started introducing posting for our clients on their behalf. So we had to do some research on the copy stuff. Before I used to be like, it's not my bag, we'll just repurpose it for you. But it actually, like there were multiple tests and studies that were done. Shorter copy across the board does better.
It's true.
And I didn't think I leaned on the train of thought that was longer because I was like writing novels on Facebook and LinkedIn with my content, but it's not the best way to do it.
Yeah. Well, I just want to add in. Yeah, we got to circle back to Pablo's question. But the thing is, this is very much like the podcast versus a blog because the podcast is audio and so is the video. The video is like they see that it's a 2, 3, 5 minute video. I'm like, and then they could just go to the blog, expand the video, the text, and go, okay, let me just scan what the heck he said or she said. It's the same thing. Let me just read the blog article on the podcast rather than listening to the whole thing.
Well, I know on YouTube, I, for one, appreciate, so I guess I'm kind of answering my own question. There'll be a 10 or 15 minute video on YouTube, and it'll say, like, 3 things to do every day to maximize this. And I'm like, somebody either in the description or a very helpful commenter will actually list out the 3 things. Right. So,
give it to me. Give it to me now. Right. Okay, Pablo, let's go back to any tips on writing copy for posts.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, like just a couple of things that we had mentioned, like the big teaser at the front with the all bold caps, things like that. That's helpful. Making sure that you're not going super crazy long-winded on it. Like I said, the shorter it does better than the longer captions or than the longer copy does. Depending on what platform you're on, the hashtags are going to make a difference. So like Instagram 7 is the sweet spot for hashtags. So that's going to be helpful. I mean, outside of that, it's really just kind of what we're talking about, tease the content a little bit. I wouldn't give the whole farm away in the content because you still want them to view, because ultimately I'm hoping you have some sort of call to action on the piece of content that you're sending them off of the platform.
Oh my God. How many things do I have to do, Shayna? Jeez.
It'll be second nature after you start doing it. No problem. But, and also one thing, do not put the link to where you want them to go in the copy on the social media platform, because Facebook wants you to stay on Facebook. So if you put the link to where you want them to go in the copy, they're going to severely diminish how many people are going to be able to see that post.
Is the solution putting it in the comments?
Right now it is. I mean, until Facebook will clearly get savvy to it.
Yeah,
they just have allowed it.
Yeah.
Well, how can't they? It's like first link in the comments. I mean, why can't Facebook just get their algorithm to say if it says first link in the comments?
Especially if you're putting http / where, some people go get clever and they're like, blah, 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 and they spell out .dot, com, like.
Who needs it?
But what we'll do is we'll actually do like a short link for the piece of content, or we'll buy like a short URL and we'll put it on the video, like on the very bottom right of the video.
Yes.
For the full length content, go here. Something that's memorable, like bit.ly/video. You know what I mean? Like you can come up with something that's simple so that, granted, they can't click it, but
they could,
it's easy for them to go and access that content.
Right. I love it. It's good stuff. You know what's interesting, and this is what it reminds me of. For anyone out there, like, okay, you guys are talking about creating content. That's a hurdle for me. But then also you're talking about all these different platforms, and I get it. This is almost like you went shopping, right? So the food, all the ingredients and the groceries is the content. You are the chef, right? And now we're asking you, you know what? You got to service that channel right there. That's Chinese food. Hurry up. Okay, that channel right there was Italian food. Make that up. And then like go over there. That's Greek food. And then it's like, oh my God, I'm doing it. I'm chopping, I'm cooking, I'm chopping, I'm cooking. Oh, it's just different type of content, different food here, different this here. Whereas like someone like Shayna and even us to a degree can help you. Like, okay, you're the chef. Buy the ingredients and we'll create the Chinese food. We'll create the Italian. We'll do the Greek food.
Wear the blue apron.
We understand what they want to eat. You just cook it up. You're the chef.
Yeah.
Not cook it up. You buy the ingredients.
Right. And also keep in mind that, like, especially if it's something that you're just starting to do, diving into all of the platforms straight out of the gates is not going to serve you best. Like, pick the couple of two platforms that you know your audience is on, that you know you can speak to them fluently in, and just focus on those first. And once you have those going and it's no big deal and you feel really good about it, then start exploring other platforms. But don't think that you're going to start with Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn. Like, that's crazy to think that that's how you're going to get it going initially.
Let's do it. Let's break it down, Lady V. Tell everyone. Let's go.
That's called a callback in the industry.
Let's go back to break it down. Why Facebook? Who's the audience? Why LinkedIn? Who's the audience?
How do we identify where we should go?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. So we actually, I did webinars for each of these platforms. So I like break them down super, super fast. But if anybody wants more info, it gets really in depth on like data and numbers. I'm not going to remember the numbers off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But Facebook, you have so many businesses saying that their audience isn't on Facebook. And that's bonkers because the demographics are mind blowing. Like, you for sure will have a part of your audience on Facebook. So that, especially if you're going to like run ads and actually target people, it's a platform that you should definitely be serving. Granted, if your demographic are like 18-year-olds, that's probably going to be a little bit skewed, but still ultimately Facebook is a platform for all. That's kind of the general consensus. Instagram is going to be more visual. That's all visual. We use it mostly for brand awareness as like an additional touch point. A lot of people in many industries do not see a lot of like actual action taken on Instagram unless it's e-commerce and you're running ads. But outside of that, for us, it's just like, okay, we're going to put this piece of content on Instagram, format it properly on stories, IGTV, things like that, and make it another touch point so that it's just a brand awareness type thing. LinkedIn is B2B. LinkedIn is my bread and butter. I love that platform. It is Facebook 5 years ago. Yes. You still get awesome visibility on your posts. They reward you for engaging on that platform. So like, if you don't post your video on LinkedIn and then just comment on your own comments. You have to go in and engage on other people's content because LinkedIn rewards that. And when you start doing that, you will start seeing more views pop up on your posts. So it wants it to be the cocktail party. I know that Gary calls Twitter the cocktail party, but Lady V calls LinkedIn. It's like LinkedIn is like the.
You're welcome.
Adopted it. I love it.
So good.
LinkedIn is the. Thank you. LinkedIn is like the, you know, when you go to conferences, it's like everybody says that what really happens at the conference is like afterwards at happy hour.
Yes.
That's to me what LinkedIn is, you know? So definitely you have to be engaging and actually utilizing it properly instead of just posting content. TikTok is another monster and I can't, but I have to in a little bit, but you know, it's younger. It's very young demographic. It's more challenge based, things like that. So it's not really a place that we've invested much time in. And Twitter has a lifespan of 18 minutes per post. So it's like you can be on Twitter. You just have to make sure you're constantly putting stuff on Twitter. Honestly, one of the only reasons that like I really post to Twitter is because a lot of places who like want you to speak, they need that reference for some reason, and that's what they're choosing to look at for content. So I'll post educational content on there, but ultimately like you have to be very, very on top of Twitter in order to make it work well for you.
Okay, so I'm going to get a little micro. Thank you for breaking all that down. And yes, I tuned out when you said TikTok, which is dumb. I mean, because
I think I did too.
You know, it's the big next new thing, but who knows? We'll see. They may get blocked. You know, TikTok may not exist in a few months. But anyway, in the US anyway. But so let's go micro. The benefit and the strategies behind stories. That's an internal question that we've had as well.
Oh yeah, I posted on in our On Our Brands Network group, which, hi gang, so good to see some of you tuning in. We see the comments there. My question was because I think that I excel in certain areas. Perhaps I feel very comfortable posting on Facebook and doing videos and engaging and commenting, all that stuff. But yet there's a separation with Facebook stories. I just can't get it. I can't find a groove. I can't find a dozen things during the course of the day. Like, I'm always envious when I'm like, how do they look at just...
Yeah, so many badges and stickers.
Great. I'm like, how do they even do that? I can't even find where that is. They're like...
Come on, Dad.
I know. They got like Alfonso from like Fresh Prince, like dancing in the corner. I'm like, how'd you get him? Did you have to hire? Like, I don't understand any of it.
And here's the other thing that my issue with stories. Is yes, I understand that it's visual, it's attention grabbing, but it's going away. I'm like, I'm never going to see that again. I'm creating this thing and everybody's just throwing it in the garbage.
Right.
And I'm like, why am I going to bother?
Right. And sometimes I really like what I'm creating for that visual. I'm like, this is one of my favorite pictures today.
I did an amazing boomerang. It's never going to happen again.
If I do say so myself. And then they only got 24 hours. So how do we get better at stories?
And what is it for?
Yeah.
Help us.
What's the result?
Help us, Obi.
Is it brand awareness? Is it a call to action? Is it like, hey, 24 hours before ticket prices go up? Like what's the deal?
It's so funny to me because I feel the exact same way about it. I'm like, I'm going to spend energy creating this content and then it's gone. Like, how is that? But it's a part of the beast. And that's the issue that we're running into, is that like, one thing that I can say is that we take like the repurposed assets that you're already putting on your feeds and you chop them up into the 15-second pieces and then you post those throughout stories as well. So like your IGTV can be chopped up and used on your stories, right? You just have to make sure you're hashtagging them all properly. Gotcha. So then those populate. You can have your image quotes on there. So it's not like you're creating new stuff and taking pictures of your food. Like you can actually use intentional content and do it that way. Like my husband's like he's a stories ninja. He's a real estate agent. And I look at him, I'm like, his stories are crazy. And it makes my brain hurt because I'm like, I can't even imagine, but I don't ever see him doing it. So I'm like, where is this happening? So I'm with you on that. It's just one of those things where be intentional about it also. Like you are going to be with your feeds and you're repurposing, and it shouldn't be that much like different than a feed or posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, how micro is it going to get? I'm already posting to Facebook.
Right.
Now it's Facebook stories.
Like,
and then is there going to be something that's underneath stories? And it's like the inception of platforms.
Like Facebook blip or something. It's like you got 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Whoever sees it, sees it.
And it's got to be of your one tooth. Only one tooth that you're going to show.
Right.
Like, what
the first 4 friends that see it, it then goes away. It's called Facebook blip.
Yeah, your shirt has to be backwards. You're like, what the hell's going on with these strategies?
Yeah. And you see in the comments here, Jacob wrote, "Okay, Boomer," as we're talking.
Right,
I mean, we are approaching 50. Let's be real, which is a crazy number.
Oh, how dare you!
I know it's true though. We are that age.
Hey, we don't have teenage kids. They're toddlers. That makes me feel youthful and young.
No, there's truth. So I'm guessing Jacob knows how to use. So we'll have to just. I mean, he is.
Yes, that was Jacob. What I can say though is we ran a really cool case study with one of our clients, and they did say that they posted the same little snippets on stories, and they said that the stories videos on Instagram were some of the most viewed ones that they posted in general across the board. So don't avoid it, just use it, but with the content that makes sense.
Right. So you think it's basically complementary to your content as a whole on that platform, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing that, and if you're doing live, if you're doing, high-end content that's produced, and you're also doing stories and add anything that I may have missed, and that becomes, I'm just talking about one platform like Facebook.
Yeah.
Then there's the magic happens. You got that whole wheel of content. It's just moving along.
Right. And unless you've got like the followers to do a swipe up so you can do a call to action, like you have to get real.
Don't start shaming.
I know.
That's the thing. That's the one tooth backward shirt.
No, you know what that means.
Swipe up.
And that's only on Instagram, right?
No, Facebook too.
Facebook too. There's also things though, like you can put like a listen on Spotify thing.
Yeah.
So like an interview that I was just on, I put a link to the listen on Spotify, and you can actually have call to actions without the whole swipe up capabilities, if you will. So there are other things you can do that would be beneficial to like your business. So if you guys want to send people to the show on Spotify, you can do that. Do like an icon on that show.
Now we have that capability. Where is that? How?
Help us, Obi-Wan.
Jacob will help you.
Jake.
What'd you say?
He's got enough on his plate. Come on, man. You got that. We got an event in September. You got to do that. He's like,
I know. Help us swipe up, Jake. Swipe up.
Swipe up.
We don't even know what that means, but I know what it means.
It's good stuff. What's another strategy or tactic, Shayna, that people sort of struggle with outside of stories or specific platforms? Is there anything that comes to mind on your end that you teaching geezers, like us, how to do?
Oh my goodness!
Honestly,
geezers.
This one is something
like
that
the Muppets. We're those two dudes on the Muppets. That's all of a sudden I got a visual. That's us in the balcony.
Well, first of all, yes, that's awesome.
Before too long, my brother. Before too long, we literally will be them.
Grays are coming in.
Well, what I can say though, and this might make you guys feel better, is that this is younger people more. Whoa, so the younger people more than the elderly.
Ouch, Lady V. Ouch, elderly.
I'm not too far behind, so please. But no, it's utilizing YouTube. Like people will do all of these amazing shorter clips that are like their long form content is like 6 minutes or whatever, even the 2-minute videos. And they are only concerned about posting to Facebook and Instagram and all the social media platforms. But ultimately, if you're offering valuable information, if you're educating in some capacity, which you should be, why aren't you putting it on a platform where people are actively searching for that information? Because when you're putting it on a social media platform, you're intruding on people in their feed, right? Like you are imposing on them and they may or may not care about that content. But when they're on YouTube or Google and they're searching for something, why wouldn't you want to show up? So making sure that you're still posting all of your content to YouTube just so you can be there when people are actually wanting to see the content you made.
Love that. Good stuff.
Yeah, and the great thing about YouTube, we've heard it, we know it. It's the second most popular search engine behind Google, happens to also be owned by Google, which means you've done a Google search before and you know high up in those results are Google saying, hey, here are a handful of YouTube videos that also may satisfy the search of yours. So you get all kinds of benefit there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's powerful because especially if you're a podcaster, and I mean that in all sense of the word, you guest, you host, you're creating content on a daily, and you're also creating content for others. They are now, I'm talking to hosts, as you become a guest, are posting to YouTube. So I did a recent search of myself, and I was like, holy smokes, I didn't realize all of these podcasts that I was a guest on is now in the Google YouTube search. And so the more you guest, the more opportunities you get ranked up into the search engines. So that brings us right to PodMax, right? That brings us right to the benefits of PodMax, because now we've talked about this in the early days, how you start to align your brand, Shayna, with other brands that are crushing it. They have communities, they have massive tribes of people that know, like, and trust them. And we're like, hey, you want to borrow their audience for an hour? And then we throw you on the stage and then you're like, hey, me, value. I'll give you a ton of stuff. And then you just go to the next one. Then you go to the next one. And this is our event. That's just talking about the podcast. Josh loves to talk about everything outside of the podcasting event day. Education, content creation, coaching, right? All of that good stuff. And then the keynotes. Yeah,
identifying your message. So when you get the opportunity to guest on shows, whether you have never been on a show or you've been on 5 or 10 shows and say, you know what, I get it. I've gotten my feet wet a little bit, but I acknowledge that there's another level of skill to learn. Or we've had people that have guested on 50, 100 plus shows that see the value, because what we do in and around that event where you become a guest on those 3 shows is we help you further identify and communicate, practice and rehearse that message, making sure that the sound bites you're talking about at the very top of the show are packaged in a way that will get you the biggest result, that will feel right, that will position you in the most powerful, excited way for the show and going forward. And what we're starting to learn is that we've always, yes, it's PodMax, we are podcast focused, that's the vehicle we use, but we're helping you with your message that we happen to help you tell through podcasts. But what we're now seeing is that message and those stories, those expand to even what we're talking about here with Shayna, into your entire marketing and sales universe. You can take this message, you take this impact that you have, you take these stories and you can put them on your website, you can put them on social, in your videos, you can put them in your emails, you can use them in your sales calls. It's literally everything you stand for as a person, as a brand, through your business. And that's really what we're helping tease out.
Yeah, what we've noticed, what we started to create, and I think this comes, deep from our marketing background and branding, we're creating business pillars for folks that don't do the exercises because they're entrepreneurs. Often our hair's on fire and we're trying to figure things out, and then all of a sudden 3 years goes by if you're lucky, and you're like, oh my God, I never created core values. I never created pillars for my business. And then they come to the table to us and we're like, what's your story? What's your business? What's your elevator pitch? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, let's help you with your elevator pitch so that when you get on these podcasts, we're setting you up for success. So now you're coming, you're prepared, you're polished, and now, that makes everyone look better, right? It makes the host feel great, and it makes the guest feel great, and it makes us, we made the connection, now it's win, 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 win. So here's the kind of cool thing, and we're going to talk offline, so apologies, folks, how you're not going to be part of this conversation, but think about the magic that would happen if you came to a PodMax event and then all of a sudden we're like, hey, we realize, you benefited greatly leading up to the event, and then now it's post. What if we took all of your content and created more stuff for you outside of podcasts?
What?
Boom, right? So yeah, more to come. And we're thinking, we're always thinking, how can we grow? How can we make things better, not just for us, but for you, the listener and the audience, and the guests that come to PodMax? How do we expand your brand? How do we continue furthering your reach? And how do we continue clarifying your message and making it stronger and putting everything on steroids? And maybe Shayna will be working with you in the future. So hopefully, and that's not a seed or plant, that's actually legit and for real. So
yes,
we're going to figure this out. All right, folks. Well, Shayna, you have any way people could reach you if they want to work with you directly and get more of your wonderful, great content?
Content.
Yes.
Swag. You know what? Honestly, repurposehouse.com is going to be the place to go. There's so many resources. Like I was saying, we do webinars constantly teaching on all the different platforms, content in general. There's a lot to learn there. Also, you can kind of see what we do and how, if it may or may not fit into your strategy. We have courses. If this is something you'd rather do on your own, we teach you, we give it all away so you understand how to do it properly yourself. So really just the website's going to be the best place. It's repurposehouse.com. And then on all the social channels, I'm Shayna Weisinger. You're probably going to see a lot of dog photos, depending on what platform. But yeah, and then Repurpose House Co. everywhere else.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. Stick around. You'll see the end credits, but stick around. We have a lot to chat about if you have the time. And then thanks for tuning in. We'll be back same time, same bat channel, 11 o'clock, Wednesdays, every single week. We hope to see you next week, and we'll see you and talk to you soon.
You're now tuned in to the On Air Brand Podcast.